I would say that the models are increasingly getting better, but there's a reason why companies like Subatomic exist. And that is it's their trained data, number one, and they miss the context of the relevance to your company, your workflows, your way. So hallucination becomes quite easy.
Hello and welcome back to an episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today I'm very pleased. Joining me, Karl Simon, his co-founder, CTO of Subatomic AI. Karl, thank you very much for being here with me today. I really appreciate, the time you gave me today to be a guest on the CTO Show. I don't like to take much time from my guests to, tell us about themselves. So I keep that part to you. But just I'm gonna give like kind of a hint or like teaser to the audience. We're gonna talk about AI agents today. We're gonna talk about a lot of topics related to AI actually, and the point of view of Carl on what's happening in this domain about the orchestration, about like what the challenges we're seeing in AI as the workforce. Without further ado, thank you again, Carl, for being here with me today. A little bit about you, your background, your journey, and then we can dive into our discussion for today. So the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Mehmet. And again, I'm really appreciative to be here on the show. I'm looking forward to talk about AI and all the topics associated with what you just listed out. Yeah, quick background on me. I've been helping companies modernize for a few decades now. And it's been a passion of mine to always provide improved automation, optimization, or insights to the data. From the early days of data warehousing to getting everyone on the cloud, the social media introductions, mobile, big data, AI, machine learning, and now generative AI. I think this could be the most impactful step up for everyone wants to modernize because it allows them to adapt, evolve, and scale. Personally, I've done this with companies big and small. And yeah, I'm here to talk about the direction.
Great. And thank you again, Carl, for being here with me today. Now, I would start from what you are currently working on, what you're building. So, you call it an orchestration layer for AI. If we want to summarize in a sentence, what the problem you're actually trying to solve inside enterprises is, what that would be.
Yeah, we realize there are a lot of companies going off of or going after the single tools, AI wrapper, single task problem. And what we recognize quickly is that the real pain is a series of source systems that don't talk to one another. For the orchestration of automation processes, for the orchestration of insights, to have a unified view of your client, of your product, or whatever is driving your business that you need to understand more about it for sales, marketing, back office operations, and beyond. So orchestration is key to bring all that information from the CRMs, the ERPs, we focus on wealth management. So there are a number of systems like the custodial systems, risk analysis, tax planning, and you name it. You have to bring it together. In that example, you know, just to give a good proxy of the problem, to know how to advise your client. And you can apply in any domain use case.
Right. Now, a lot of people think, Carl, that AI fails because of the models. They are not good enough. They have issues, hallucination, all that. You argue the opposite. Um, what are we missing here?
Yeah, actually, I would say that the models are increasingly getting better, but there's a reason why companies like Subatomic exist. And that is it's their trained data, number one, and they miss the context of the relevance to your company, your workflows, your way. So hallucination becomes quite easy when you ask a simple question directly to the models. You need an agentic workflow with agents that understand the step that's being performed within the workflow and has the cognitive knowledge, your way of thinking embedded within your workflows to make sure that the model is guided on how to infer the question and then how to synthesize the answer.
Right. Now, if I want to take an example, a real life example, Carl, like um, how things start to break, when we try to do these orchestrations. Like, is it because of the data is not ready? Is it because of the existing workflows, they are not optimized for the AI world? Or is it maybe sometimes no one is taking ownership? Like, what have you seen? Like, why things break, I would say.
Yeah, well, it's a great question, Mehmet, because everything from the data to the workflow execution needs to be ready for the moment. Data, this has been true forever, and it's just as true in AI because AI will accelerate what's broken. Data cleansing, data completeness, data unification standardization in terms of the terms, the names. I mean, the easy one is I can be spelled as Carl with a C in one system, which is wrong, Carl with a K, which is right. Someone might think my name is Carla because my middle name is Alan and it hasn't the initial A. And these don't match up across the systems to make joining and unification across these separate sources difficult. But the terms as well, business terms. What does gross profit mean in your company? What does it mean to have marketing lift in your campaign as a result of executing messaging to the right target? These are things that need to be clarified so that when the systems bring together a complete picture, it's not an incomplete understanding of the data. You feed that into the model, you're going to get wrong answers. Then the workflow, you have to apply typical engineering practices. Your call to the large language model may fail. Any step may fail. Typical retry logic is critically important. And then all the issues with security that, you know, can happen at any point in the system. AI introduces yet another opportunity for prompt injections where you can actually get the model to provide answers that are inappropriate or actually create breaches of your critical personal information.
Right. Another thing we've seen or we've heard about, especially when we talk about AI agents, that they look great in demos, but when we try to take them into production, they collapse. How much of this is a technical problem versus an organizational problem? And is this why also we hear companies saying, "Hey, we tried to deploy the AI and nothing changed. We didn't see the value proposition." Like, what's happening behind the scenes that is causing these issues to come up? And the reason I'm digging too much into the problem, because then we're gonna talk about like how you're solving this. So let's understand this part.
I'm glad you are, Mehmet, because a lot of people are experiencing this and it's unfortunate. A lot of the easy examples are when you try to use the model directly. Again, you're not applying your own cognitive your workflows, the way you do business, your cognition, your philosophies, your way. So it doesn't really align with what you want to see. Or people misuse the model. They assume that just because it has an input context window that is significantly large, that the model can recall information that will end up getting lost in the middle. You really need to feed bounded context stepwise in appropriate workflow so that you have the guardrails of what acceptable answers will be. You have the specified context to provide guidance on how to answer the question. You may even provide examples within that guidance. The ultimately the right size and the given focus, given that workflow step, so that you're not sending in contextual rot that will confuse the model, and that is a really fine tuned consideration that a lot of people unfortunately overlook.
Right. Now let's talk about, we mentioned a couple of times the orchestration layer, right? So let's try to bring it down in simple terms. Um there's a lot of, I would say, mm, terms that we are hearing. There's a lot of things that are mixing maybe some people's minds up, because people sometimes, and it happened when the AI first came, and I was talking to people, they mix it, for example, with automation. Some people start to mix it with, the APIs, middleware, and I'm talking here about the orchestration part. So, how do we define it and how we differentiate it from what we had already, related more to automation and integration, I would say.
Right. So it is automation integration, although if you have it within an agentic workflow, you have different steps at times taking agency and making decisions of what to do next. That's very aligned with the typical human based workflow that may exist. I mean, you can maybe some of the easiest examples think about a manufacturing floor that needs to fulfill an order. They get a pick slip, and it tells them all the orders or all the items that need to be placed in the order. The bin might hit the assembly line or conveyor belt, and you start picking from the locations where likely a lot of the items are grouped together. But sometimes items are out of stock at the primary location. So you might coordinate with someone on the fly. Can you get something from overstock so we can fill the primary location? These are the moments in time where there's stepwise reasoning that's applied, or there might not even be more inventory in uh, overstock, and you have to basically either decide to partially ship or back order the entire order and wait for that last part because without it, you can't really, you're not getting a sufficiently partial order that can be used. So all this goes into play in the AI world or any level of automation. You need that reasoning logic. Before it was always automation was execute steps 1 through 5, and there would be no decisioning necessarily. Maybe you'd have some routing considerations based upon some case logic, but AI automation and the integration steps to the different systems depends upon the request at the moment in time. It's not just a singular workflow, but it can be um, there could be a lot of agentic reasoning up front to decide, well, what is the real request here and how should it
Mhm.
be answered? And so the steps may be reordered according to that particular request.
And I think here where, data preparation plays a major role here. So the AI has the context. Now, the question that follows, and feel free to elaborate a little bit on that. But, again, the question, and this is from people who are new to this, like people who, by the way, and I'm surprised in some talking to some people, business oriented people, not the technical guys. You know, the question that sometimes they ask, okay, how we can rely on the AI outputs, like how I can make sure that an agent or an agentic workflow would be able to do or to have a decision which might be business critical here. Um, are companies having this fear, Carl? Like, and how we can answer these fears?
Yeah, I love that question, Mehmet, because number one, many companies are having that fear. But number two, not enough companies are having that fear. I
Yeah.
mean, here you have your business reputation, your ability to deliver, and ultimately what will culminate in customer satisfaction at risk. And so, absolutely, people should be, first of all, distrustful that the result will come back correctly. And observability is key here. You need the capabilities of seeing what exactly happened, not just at the point where the model did the inference, but the steps leading up to it. Did it get fed the correct data, as you're pointing out? The appropriate context that includes both the data, which is really the proxy for your knowledge, and then the cognitive understanding of your processes, your way, with your philosophies, your reasoning. So when it doesn't have that, it's not properly fed in. Of course, the model's not going to provide you with the correct answer. So that observability gives that to you. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, we have logs." So you hear that from a lot of companies,
Hmm.
and that, if you have a deep IT team, can help you dig through, but it's not immediate. It's not necessarily repeatable, easily without a lot of effort, and it doesn't give you assurances that everything is done correct. So, for example, here at Subatomic, we have something called Deep Lens. Deep Lens includes three different lenses, actually: introspection, or we call it introspect, that allows you to dig into the actual steps and the reasoning applied in your workflow so that you know it did the right thing. And then the second step is audit. We audit across all the different considerations for compliance, whether it's NIST, OWASP, ISO 27001, and many more. And then we have eval. Eval actually digs in and measures how well it did all the steps of the way, including the final answer. And so it gives you a full view into whether or not it's using your cognition and check against that as a ground truth, and whether or not the answers are correct based upon reconciling it against proven techniques. And if it doesn't, first of all, it'll try to course correct, you know, it will course correct in the middle of the process, but then you could still observe right immediately on that request to see how well it did, even at the end. That's critical.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Carl, you frame AI as workforce infrastructure, not as a software. Like
Yeah.
this is a big claim, big shift. I understand it and I understand the rationale behind it. But if you want to explain it to you know to other people, right? So what how that would look in practice? Like
Yeah.
how AI is part of the workforce now, and it's an
Right.
infrastructure, not software. Because when you tell people AI, the first thing that comes to their mind, yeah, it's coding, it's software. I have to deploy something.
Yeah. So what we believe is that when you're adopting AI, you're really hiring AI coworkers. And we call them exactly that, AI coworkers. You want these coworkers to work just like a human being would. If you have a question and you can't self-serve answer it through knowledge, is some sort of knowledge base, which AI can do for you much more easily and scalably, you ask someone who is the knowledge leader. Or you may ask for something to be done by a group, and you have a core person who really represents the best practices of that group. You'll ask that person, can you help me do this, which represents that cross-functional nature of workflows. When you have an AI coworker, you onboard them just like any other human being into your knowledge, your SOPs, your way. And so we think of AI coworkers need to come in with the requisite skills for the purpose-driven job at hand, and get them onboarded to your playbooks. That is really the perfect analogy. And when you think about it from a perspective of evaluating any person, human or AI coworker, you would want to evaluate the same way and decide, are these AI coworkers actually performing at the right level? If they're not, then you move on. Because ultimately, when you hire AI coworkers, you're paying for them, and you're thinking about, if this AI coworker is so great, how many human coworkers does it represent? Am I getting 1.5 equivalent AI coworkers in terms of production and likely higher quality? Or am I getting 5 times? These are considerations that every CTO has to think through, along with their executive team, about ROI. What is the intention behind using these AI coworkers or using AI at all? And the AI coworker proxy for actually a person performing is the easiest way to think about it.
Right. I gotta ask a kind of a follow-up question, which is a little bit, let's call it fictionary, a little bit, but uh, it popped up in my mind. I didn't prepare for it. So because you mentioned the SOPs and you mentioned, like, you bring someone, this similarity with how you hire, quote unquote, an AI coworker. So one of the things that at some stage in my career, very long time ago, is we see the company has a problem with its own SOPs, right? So you hire people to do the same thing and they don't optimize. They just, okay, this is how we do things here. This is the process. Just execute. Now, would AI be able to go and, you know, just say, I'm saying like it's kind of a science fiction kind of thing that it will go and say, hey, by the way, your SOPs are not optimized. We need to do something about it. But again, is that possible? Like, and how much time that would take the AI coworker to understand that these SOPs maybe they are outdated. Maybe there's something that can be done into a better way. And the reason I'm asking you, Carl, because also from my personal experience, what kills a lot of businesses over time is that they keep their old things because they always say, yeah, this is how we have always done it. We don't need to change. And then, someone would come and disrupt. So can AI avoid this? This is what I'm trying to reach, the point I want to reach.
I think that's really smart, Mehmet. You know, yes, the answer is yes, because so I'm going to step back for a moment. At Subatomic, we deployed that observability set of lenses called Deep Lens, but
Hmm.
we also have security built in as a first class citizen. And so when I talk about Deep Lens evaluating everything, it includes also the security as well. And we immediately give you points in time request visibility to even security. So and then we roll everything up and identify patterns and recognition. Think about it. When you want to evaluate a workflow, what are the key things you're evaluating for? You're evaluating for throughput, execution time, accuracy, completeness. And with our deep lens, eval lens, that at both the single request at a time review, let alone the aggregate pattern recognitions, you can identify whether or not it's hitting the mark on all those things. And you can build in AI, whether it's a part of the singular request execution, or what I would recommend is one that actually reviews the aggregate data and identifies patterns to give you better approaches, better recommendations. I mean, we at Subatomic believe in the idea of adapt, evolve, and scale. And if you're not adapting, evolving, and scaling your workflows, then that's a critically missed opportunity because that's, full circle to the beginning of our discussion. I said, for modernizing your company, your workflows, your insights, your way, this has never been a better time to really bring it up, maybe orders of magnitude greater than it's ever been with generative AI, because you can get that insight quickly, adapt your workflows. Even your organization can adapt and evolve so that you can actually scale and increase output, increase your customer satisfaction. That's key. So, yes, you can embed AI to actually review and recommend.
Right. This is exciting, and I hope we see more adoption for this. Now, you talk also, Carl, about how good AI is invisible, right? So, what does it mean for business leaders? Like, is it like they don't have to say we have, you know, we had adopted AI for this? Like, what's the trick here to have a good AI which is invisible?
Right. Well, as a company representative, can talk about having AI. I think that's perfectly fine. That's not the invisible aspect of AI. It's really more that you know, the, Mehmet, the aspect that when things are working well, you don't really think about it. But then when something breaks, you know who is involved, you know what broke. And so it becomes very visible. So many of our workflow processes just happen and they continue to do well because they are reliable, they're accurate, and ultimately successful. And that's what you want AI to be. That's the first layer of invisibility. The second one is it's key when you don't have to know you may not know every single person involved in the workflow. You just know that if you contact somebody today in the human based workforce, you know it'll get taken care of. It may not have been that person all by him or herself. There may have been many players in the background. Same thing with AI. I mean, we have this chief of staff. We call it the concierge that knows the fuller AI organization, all the individual teams that are workflow or domain focused that need to be contacted, and they involve the right people. Well, in this case, AI coworkers to get involved and perform. You don't have to, as a human being, know all those AI coworkers. You don't have to prompt specifically knowing every single AI coworker involved. You just need to know what's the general request, and you need to expect that your chief of staff for the AI team or your concierge knows exactly what you mean and can pull the right AI coworkers to perform the right workflows and their individual steps with the cognition and knowledge base of data to do it your way.
This will affect the org chart, I would say, Carl, a lot. But are we going to see, for example, supervisors or managers who are like actually AI agents?
Oh, you mean for human beings? I mean, we
Yeah.
have them already for other AI coworkers, but I will say that is a very feasible future. I'm not saying suggesting that is an immediate future, but because that takes a little bit of organizational behavior and acceptance, for adoption. I'm sure it's happening though at a subset of companies already.
Yeah.
It
But
out.
time will show also like how this will, will take it to the next level. To be honest, like, if I go back in time and, maybe I'm a junior and I have to have a supervisor which is an AI agent. I don't mind because if it can teach me to do the job the right way and it's customized to me, it might be better than having a human supervisor because I always relate this to education and we always know that one of the biggest problems in traditional education is they design the system assuming that everyone is on the same level, everyone has the same cognitive abilities and so some people they can write faster, some people they can read faster, and not everyone, and this is the problem in education. So if I take that to the workforce and I have someone who's onboarding me, which is an AI agent in this case, at to my pace and can bring me up to speed to be productive in the company much faster, I wouldn't say no to it actually. Like I would love that in person. This is a personal opinion here. Now, if we want to talk about applying all what we've discussed so far, Carl, in highly regulated, you know, verticals, industries, like whether it's like healthcare, it might be financial institutions. Um, are we able to have the AI outputs predictable, auditable also as well in these such environments?
Oh, absolutely. Again, this gets back to subatomic deep lens and subatomic security. We build it both of them in as first class citizens within everything that is executed in the system. And we have an elaborate set of reports that give you the full transparency and also interactive UIs where you can step through the processes and see the checks being done all along the way. The roll up to not just performance and execution against your ground truth is there, but also, again, the alignment with auditability, across all the different security frame or compliance frameworks and security frameworks are there. Now, not enough companies are doing this. We make it important. In fact, we intentionally differentiate in those areas because it's so critically important. The um, the goal is for everyone to start demanding that as a client and for all the providers to ensure that it becomes part of the core.
Right. Now, let's try to give some hints to CTOs, founders, leaders in enterprise organizations who want now to do a proper start for AI that deliver outcomes. Where they have to start?
If they want to have, oh, so you're asking if they want to start having success with AI, what's a good
Yes,
approach to do it?
yes.
Okay.
If they want something that can deliver outcomes, and as far to back to the ROI, which you mentioned at the beginning. So how if they want to have the earliest ROI results possible, where they have to start first? Fixing data, systems, workflows. Where should I start?
Well, absolutely, you have to fix the foundation, which is the data. You have to get the data right. Again, garbage in, garbage out has been something stated for decades now. And again, AI is an accelerator of good and bad. So you got to get your data correct, unify it, standardize it, clean it, right? And have it prepared in a structure that can be rapidly uh, ingested at runtime for its purpose. There are normal form for a lot of transactional based information. So if you have a medallion architecture, that's your silver layer. And then a dimensional model for rapid insights, that's your gold layer. Those are key, so it's both the preparation of the data so that it's correct, and it's the actual structuring of the data so that it's consumable at runtime for purpose. And then think about all the use cases and the impact it would have in terms of velocity, cost optimization, and when you reduce your cost, your ability to shift your focus to growth. Many of these different roles can actually now refocus on building revenue. In the case of wealth management, we like to talk about those that are spending a lot of time preparing agendas for meetings with their top clients. They should be able to do it quickly. And then in the meantime, use the extra or freed up time to, basically grow their assets under management. That's a critical opportunity. And all that goes into ROI. So stack rank your top pain points and think about it both in the context of cost optimization, velocity and accuracy, quality, but then also how much you can grow your business as a result of all that saved time. And then go for it. Now, if it happens to be a complex process, again, there are companies out there like Subatomic that can help you get it simplified and deliver very quickly through internal engineering practices where we have actually our own AI coworkers on staff to perform. But absolutely pick the ones that if you're thinking about a compressed time to value, then indeed have all those requirements or requisites or prerequisites all, you know, well defined and ready to go.
Right, Carl. Let's say I want to, to get on board. So we let's say we had our first discovery meeting with you, and we decided to move forward. And I'm trying, to see, for me as an executive, as a technology leader of my company, um, is there anything I need to buy versus build? And how my, of course, like I'm getting, the help on the agents from you, and like how my, let's say, first 90 days would look like if I'm start to get onboarded.
Sure. Well, if you're buying, you know, basically, for a company like Subatomic, we walk you through a 2-week discovery, more extended discovery to learn more about your process. So your preparation for that needs to be gathering the right individuals who can reflect your workflows, bring along those SOPs. If you have defined decisioning or reasoning logic, bring that along. But a lot of it's in people's head, tribal knowledge. And so part of the discovery is pulling out that tribal knowledge that'll get captured. If you allow recordings, they'll get captured in meeting recordings. And then all that information, at least the way we do it, is we feed it into our series of AI coworkers that start planning, architecting and designing, and actually building your solution. And
Mm-hmm.
within days, including at least a, a small enough proxy of information or data that's already been unified, standardized, and cleansed to see the outputs that are already 70 to 80% of the way there. And then you can expect within the 60 to 90 days, um, latter part of a 3-month engagement, the final 20 to 30% getting done with you every week, checking in, showing you the latest changes based upon the last meeting's recommendations or requests. So that's what it would look like, at least for a build or buy situation with Subatomic. I can't really speak to how other companies do it, but that preparation is the same as what we've been talking about all meeting. Get your data in order, or ready to be examined, profiled, and then identified for opportunities to improve. Get all your SOPs, get the right people ready to go, and make sure you start socializing what you're doing throughout the company. That's build or buy situation. Now, in the build, you're going to want to think about how are you going to do it on your own. Do you understand how to build a context infrastructure that has a cognitive engine reflecting your ways, a good memory that coincides with that for the further context infrastructure components, and a way to build in that observability and security? If you have a smart plan for that, great. I will say that a lot of companies believe they do. They start down that process, and unfortunately, they realize it's a little more rigorous and complex than they thought. So, if you want to make sure it's done right, really dive deep into these latest practices that ensure the rigor's there, and you can build visible observability, not just catch traces. Actually have the traces brought to life in terms of the identification of what happened, what went wrong.
You repeated this a lot of time, and I think this is key. The observability, it's something very important to actually understand what's going on. I think this is, it's for me a key takeaway for this. Now, maybe a little bit traditional question. If we want, like, now everything is moving fast, Carl, and we had this, generative AI, and the jump to the agentic AI so fast. What are you expecting in the next 12 to 18 months will be the biggest shift that will happen in enterprise AI?
I think the biggest shift is a lot of what we've been talking about because a lot of it is missing in the industry. But I
Mhm.
do think maybe one of the things that will quickly evolve is we're hearing from a number of clients already that not only do they want to be efficient in front of their keyboard, but even driving to and from work. Now, that might not sound like a popular thing or a happy thing to hear that they're constantly thinking work, but a lot of people, when they get home, want to be able to focus on family. And the way they try to increase that time with family is by taking advantage of transit time. So that drives the opportunity for voice or audio. So interacting with AI, providing questions or instructions through voice, or maybe listening to a podcast of your day, that's auto generated by the the AI coworkers to say, well, Mehmet, good morning. Here's what you have on your calendar. Here are the key people you need to talk to, the key topics for those people or clients. And this is what you want to be able to, perform before end of the day, the clients you want to reach out to, the key talking points you may have, and get that download before you've even taken that first step into the office. So there's opportunities there. I do think people will refine exactly everything we talked about to more optimal states. And I think you're going to start hearing that people are really interested now on connecting, externally with other companies within their supply chain, for
Mhm.
example, so that that agent to agent communication will start becoming an increasingly important part of the rollout. We've heard about the protocols being developed, but we don't hear that much yet about clients thinking outside their house. I think within the 12 to 18-month portion of that overall time frame, we're going to start seeing the first companies start doing that.
Yeah, that would be an interesting moment to see and watch indeed. Um, a traditional final question, Carl, like where people can get in touch and learn more about Subatomic.
Oh, uh, please reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, but you can go to our website, getsubatomic.ai, and you'll learn more about what we're doing. And there's an opportunity to fill out a form and contact us to our general support, inbox. You can actually reach out to my co-founder as well. So Sam is available at his first name at getsubatomic.ai. You can reach out directly on email to me, Carl at getsubatomic.ai.
Great. Again, thank you very much, Carl, for this. I would say eye-opening conversation, right? And how the world is shifting towards this agentic AI in the workforce. And I'm highlighting some of the key points you discussed. So first, we need to have we need to understand what we have. We need to have the observability. We need to work on, the optimization part, and then we implement the orchestration, and then we start to refine this. And then again, the last thing which you mentioned about the future and how we might see agents talking to each other or co-workers talking to each other across companies. That would be very interesting. For the links you mentioned, they will be all available in the show notes. So if the audience are listening to this podcast on their favorite podcasting app, so you'll find them in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll find them in the description. And again, thank you, Carl, so much for this discussion. This is how I end my episodes. This is for the audience. If you just discovered us, thank you for passing by. A small favor from me, if you can just share it with more people. Like, we try to, educate, and we try to reach a lot of people who might not heard yet about what we're discussing, the trends, and also to learn about great guests similar to Carl, who was with me here today, and what they are building. And if you are one of the people who keep coming again and again, the loyal fans, thank you very much. Your support is generous. Your support is really, you know unbeaten. You are keep having the podcast ranking in the Apple top 200 podcast charts across multiple countries since last year. You're continuing the same thing this year. Every week we change 2 to 3 countries, but we are always like at least in 3 to 4 countries in the Apple top 200 chart. So thank you very much. This doesn't happen by itself. This is because you are listening and you are referring more people too. So thank you very much indeed, and we will meet again very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.